What's up, guys? This is Carter Thomas with Coin Mastery TV. Make sure you go and sign up for the email newsletter list to get a free PDF. Go to coinmastery.com/invest. If you are watching the YouTube channel, listening on the podcast, if you haven't gotten on the email list yet, I would encourage you to do so this week. I'm going to be sending out some emails throughout this week that I think you'll want to see. Some new stuff we're releasing. So make sure you get on that email list, coinmastery.com/invest. Happy Monday, everybody. I hope you had a great weekend full of fear and China news and all sorts of Bitcoin shenanigans. Today, what I want to talk about is what's going on with Bitcoin, or what are some possible scenarios with Bitcoin. I want to talk about the China news, which at this point, I think it's kind of played out, but we'll talk about it. And then I want to talk about a few different coins that I'm looking at. As you guys know, I tend to focus on anywhere from 3 to 5 coins per week. And I'll often only buy 1 or 2, unless I see some really good opportunities. And many times I won't buy anything. But I want to walk you through why I'm picking these coins, what I'm looking for specifically, and what would get me to make a purchase and what my goal would be. I think that this will be helpful for you so that as you are going through, whether it's Bittrex, Poloniex, CoinMarketCap, whatever, as you're making your list for the week, which is something that I would encourage you to do, have a few that you want to look at. This may help you establish your strategy so that you can have at least somewhat of a plan going into the week. This has proven time and time again as a trading strategy to be very effective. And even if you are a long-term holder or anything like this, this is also a very good way to see good entry points and know when to buy in more. And then last, I want to talk about the overall market in terms of how we should be viewing, or at least how I am viewing, not only cryptocurrencies, but especially altcoins, but as an investor, how we should be thinking about this. And I think that it's a little individual for everybody, but I do think that this will help you as you see the bigger picture of where this is all going, and hopefully help you get an idea of what you're putting your money into, right? What is this stuff? So let's kick it off by just looking at Bitcoin. Now, this is I'm checking out TradingView. I don't know exactly how if this is probably no better than Coinigy, but check it out, right? It's a free option that you have to see ads, but if you want to go check it out, go to tradingview.com, see what happens. A lot of people have been saying this is a good free resource. On this Bitcoin chart, I'm doing the 60-day Bitstamp. I drew a few different lines. This is by no means an in-depth technical analysis, and I don't pretend it to be. It's more to just show a few different ways to look at what's going on. The first line that we're looking at is the yellow line, which I've drawn before, which takes it from the last big dip, which is middle of July, and then it takes it to the most recent dip, which was on September 10th, which I guess was yesterday. Now, the biggest dip happened August 22nd, but the way the charts work for anyone seeing this is the one we want to look at. So anyone listening on the podcast, we're looking at the dip that happened yesterday, drawing a line between the July dip at 1800 to yesterday's dip at 4,000. What this trend line is showing us is that, again, it's another breaking point where last time we drew it to this line, right? Before this whole curve, we drew it to the September 4th line, and that's what the bear looked like, or the bull trend looked like. Now we're drawing it to this new curve with the idea of over the last few days, I should say last few hours at this point, are we staying above or below that trend line? And this continues to just give us more data to allow us to determine, hey, is this going to go back up? Is this going to continue to go down? And looking at these trend lines is really as sophisticated as I get, and then I tend to just call up my technical chart friends and ask them what they're doing, or look online and see what other people are saying. But that's one major curve, and I'm sure there's other ways people can do it. But what you should be looking for is, if you draw this line, does this horizontal action, is this going to break this trend line again? And if the answer is yes, that's more evidence that it's a longer term bear trend as opposed to a hiccup in the system. All right, so I'm going to hide this so that now you can only see a shorter term triangle, I guess is the way to look at it, where I connect the bottom of August 22nd, the valley there, to the peak of September 2nd, and draw two simple lines that just connect the bottoms and the tops. Again, this is not uber sophisticated, but I think it does help paint a bit of a picture where you see that there is some up and down action. And what a lot of technical traders will look at, they'll do a better job than I do, but they're going to want it to go up, and is it going to break through this line, or is it going to hit it and then come back down and then hit this support line again? And then really what happens at this breaking point at the end of the triangle? Does it shoot up? Does it shoot down? And that's really the question. So when you look at a lot of different factors, to be perfectly honest, I don't think that there's any overwhelming evidence that it's going up or down yet. I do personally think that by having this horizontal consolidation action, it's showing a lot of resiliency in the market, which is making the fact that we shot up so fast, it gives it a little bit more of an ability to catch up with itself. Whether or not the price is reflective of that, whatever, that's a different conversation. So with Bitcoin, it really just, I think we're in a wait and see type of situation where I've got buy orders set, pretty much worst case scenario, right? Starting at around 3,200 down to 2,900. I'm not really messing around too much here because I think that I just haven't seen any clear trends one way or another. So I know that's no definitive news, but that is what I'm seeing. That's typically what I'm seeing with the market sentiment and with a handful of other technical traders. Cool. Now, what's been driving this? I think a few different things. The most obvious have been the China news. Some of it's been fabricated. Some of it may be true. It's kind of hard to know. What was really interesting, though, is yesterday, Wall Street Journal put out this very, very dramatic headline that says, China to shut down Bitcoin exchanges. Now, it doesn't get more extreme than that, in my opinion. And the kicker is that they really didn't cite a lot of, they didn't link to a lot of credible news sources. This was a lot of just hearsay and speculation. And you can't read it right now because the Wall Street Journal has a subscription thing. But this is interesting to me because this is the first time I've seen the Wall Street Journal in recent history. They've done it before, but in the last couple of months where they've really come out with blatant, we're trying to paint a picture that this Bitcoin thing is on its way out. Let's take a second here, and instead of focusing and thinking about the FUD and is it true, is it not true, and what does this affect on Bitcoin, let's just take a second here and think about why this was written in the first place. So imagine you are Chao Deng, who's the author of this. I do not know who that person is. You are working over the weekend, you're sitting at your desk or your home, and you're seeing all these rumors fly around. And I'm assuming you talk to your editor and you say, this is a really good story. There's a lot of buzz around this. This is going to really work well to get people polarized and fired up. It's going to appeal to both finance and crypto people, but in completely opposite ways. The editor probably says, that's great. We're running this new paid paywall on our website, and I know that their traffic is down 40%. Their subscriptions are up about 200%, but they're losing a lot of traffic and they're losing a lot of money. So this, to me, has more to do with the Wall Street Journal's problems than Bitcoin and FUD and all that. It is just a way to get clicks to their newspaper, to their website. Now, that's the first piece. I think the second piece, going back to the much bigger picture, we've talked about this in the last few weeks, when you think about Wall Street, or when you think about the people that are probably friends with the editor of the Wall Street Journal, or having some sort of influence on what they would like the Wall Street Journal to see, right? This is a relatively conservative newspaper, very friendly to, or it's the newspaper that most finance and bankers would at least glance at, right? They'd find it credible. It makes you wonder if Wall Street was trying to push down the price, wouldn't this be a really great way to do it? And a couple of weeks ago, I said something like that. I said, bankers want to push the price down. And a lot of people came back and said, well, if they don't own any, they can't push it down. And this is an example. This is proof that they can. Even if they don't own it, look at the price over the last weekend. If they wanted to find ways to push the price down, I'm not saying there's a huge conspiracy. I'm just saying that there are ways to drive prices down, even if you're not, you don't own it, if you're not in the game yet. So those are the perspectives that you want to look at when you start to see it's not just FUD. It's with fear, uncertainty, and doubt. It is there's a person writing this, and that person had to have motives to write it, and those motives needed to come from somewhere. Chao Deng does not live in her own world and just come up with it and hope. And she's not just some blogger. She works for an institution of the Wall Street Journal that has powerful allies, there are things that impact it way beyond our world, our crypto world. That is what's really important to think about when you see things like this. What does this mean? Are bankers, finance people, what happens when they see this? Are they more or less likely to put money in? What do they want to see happen when the articles like this come out? These are the macro pictures where most people see this and they get fired up and say, this is not true, this is blah, blah, blah. And I look at this and I say, all right, there's something going on here that the Wall Street Journal is trying to push the price down. They're trying to get people scared of Bitcoin. Why are they doing that? So, something to think about, just a different perspective. Let's look at Bittrex real quick, and then we're going to dive into the coins. And I just want to walk you through a couple of the ways I'm looking at it. A lot of action over the weekend. You may have seen on Twitter with Civic getting put on the Poloniex exchange. There was a very, very quick increase in volume. Let's open it up real quick. If you scroll back to, I guess, Friday night, as we were all being super cool and watching Bittrex, you could see that there was a little bit of a run up, and then boom, Poloniex tweeted and it went through the roof. And then there was a slow sell off and all that as expected, right? And this has happened before, but it's always interesting to see how fast news can move the amount of 470 Bitcoins worth of volume up to 1,000 Bitcoin in a matter of minutes. So that's good. I don't think that this really changes a lot about Civic's value proposition. I own a lot of Civic. I believe in Civic. I think that the Equifax hack supports and helps this a lot. So, those kind of movements are always, if you had a scalp trade and it filled, killer, right? But I don't think that it's a huge deal in the long term. And I'll talk about that at the end of this with kind of seed round investing and things like that. There's obviously a million other stories going on, and I think that it's easy to end up spending most of our time just trying to make sense of all this and trying to find opportunities. But like I've talked about, I think it's one strategy I found is that it's better just to focus on a few. So I'm going to focus on 4 that I'm looking at this week. And again, I'm not sure that I'm going to buy any, but this is what I'm going to be looking at so that I don't get sucked into the world of all these other coins. First one is Omisco. And the reason why I'm looking at this is, one, I think it's a great product. Two, it has popular support right now. And this is something that I don't want to harp on too much because whatever. Omisco, in my opinion, is a really good example of something that has a good team, a great product, but more than anything, they have an amazing story. And what I mean by that is their story really started because Vitalik, Buterin, the founder of Ethereum, had their sticker on his laptop. If that one thing had not happened, if the majority of the cryptoverse that we are all in had not started to imagine the credibility behind Omisco, OMG, if that sticker had not been on that laptop, think about the long-term effect of that, of how things like McDonald's started to become a real deal, and how credibility started to go through the roof, and how people just started to believe it because of that one sticker. And you go through Twitter, Facebook, any of these, and people will just start to become true believers in OMG. That all starts with the story, right? And then you go to the website and you find things that can back up your story, back up your belief systems. But the fact of the matter is, none of these companies are making any money. They're still all like very, very early in the business cycle world. And it really, I think that when I see a lot of people believing a story really, really well in this type of environment, that is as good a reason to do a trade. It's maybe the best reason to do a trade because it's going to keep the volume and the prices going up because it'll get people not to sell. Something to think about as you're making your decisions. You know, what story about OMG are you telling yourself? It could be true, but it's all about stories. Same thing with crypto. Like we all tell ourselves a story about crypto. Why are we in crypto? Well, we believe it's going to take over the world. That is a story that we give power to, whether it's true or not. That's just how these things work. With OMG, if you're listening on the podcast, I'm looking at the last few days, starting on the 9th of September, where there's a big jump, which may have come from some random rumors, the Google thing, the Apple thing. Who knows what that all means? But if you look at this on a short-term timeline, this is a triangle. And typically what happens with triangles is it's a way to show consolidation. Consolidation means you get lower, tighter bands, right? So the highs get tighter to the lows, as you can see right here. And what you're looking for is to see at any point, does it break up out of this triangle or does it break down out of this triangle? And once you see that confirmation, that's often a very good time to buy it, especially with OMG's history, right? With the reputation it has, with the story it has. Whatever happens on the end of this triangle, it will typically accelerate in that direction. So what I'm doing is I'm watching this particular triangle and I'm going to see if it breaks up or if it breaks down. But that is when I will decide to make my move, if I do make a move on it. I already own a bunch, so this is just a good setup, right? One that I'm interested in. It has a lot of volume, so that's what I'm looking at for OMG. I'm less concerned about the long term, just because I already own a bunch. But this, from an entry standpoint, looks good. Second one I'm checking out is metal, and this is a longer term trend because I own some, but not very much. And metal has been coming out with some good news recently. Let me shut down some of these other charts so you can see this better. Metal has had some some good news recently. Their founders have been talking on Slack and letting people know. I think they put up a Facebook post about being involved with Virgin and sponsoring a tennis tournament, which who knows if that's going to happen now with the hurricane, which is crazy. But if you look at this is very loosely drawn, right? And it kind of doesn't account for this top peak in the middle here. So if you're listening on the podcast, I'm connecting the first peak when it first came out, right, in July, all the way to the most recent peak, which happened on September 7th. And we're not really worrying about the August 18th peak. Just to draw some very, very loose channels. And I've been watching this for a while. It's been awesome for swing trades, because anything that goes in these channels, you could really start to see it starting in middle of August. I started to put this on the back burner of these big channels and just watching to see it go down, hit the swing trade, watch it see it go down, hit the swing trade. So this one, barring any unforeseen circumstances, is either going to go down again to this channel bar and then kick back up, or it may consolidate and then break through the top channel, right? It may go parabolic right there. Who knows? But I think that this is a great one to look at. And specifically what I'm going to be looking at is, what does it keep going down? If it does keep going down, does it break this line? And if it does, not doing anything. Or if it goes up, and if it starts to make a strong move up, that may be an interesting way. You can look at the Fibonacci on that. Or if it goes up and it breaks this line, that may be a sign of a bigger bull trend, which is also a very good sign. So that's what I'm looking at. Does it stay in this channel? What's the behavior in this channel? But metal's been a great swing trade, and I think it's actually a really good product. Got a great team, so might be worth checking out. ARK. I've been a fan of ARK for a long time. I bought a bunch of ARK back in June, and I've sold off probably 60% of it over just to make some, I had no idea I was going to continue to do this well, but the more I watch it, the more I research it, the more I find out the community and the product and the, things like the delegates and what they're doing with their wallet. It's impressive. They've got a really good thing going. And so what I'm looking at is this. So in middle of August, we saw the first real big spike, I guess maybe back here. No, that was June. In August, we saw a really big spike, and then we saw a second big spike, and we're starting to see these, upward trending arcs, right? It's actually a really nice looking curve. What I drew in here is the resistance lines, meaning, very loosely speaking, this is where the market saw a good amount of resistance in the upward forces. So the first resistance happened at 47, second resistance happened around 66, and now we're going up and up. So what I'm looking for is, whatever, this is going to go do its thing, and then at some point it's going to come down. I'm looking for it to come back to either 66, see what happens around that area, and if it keeps going down, look at 48. You might be able to pull off something like a 59 right here, because there's kind of interim resistance through here. But I would say these two levels, and also keeping an eye on 59, that's where I would look to buy into this as a longer term play, just because it's based on a retracement on a coin that I think is doing a good thing. So that's what I'm going to have my eye on. Last and certainly not least, my trusty Monero, which I'm just accumulating this stuff as fast as I possibly can. Some people agree with me, some people don't agree with me. I just think that I think that Monero has a big future, and especially with the high net worth community, I guess is a good way to put it. So people that I've met that are interested in this kind of stuff tend to be people that have lots of money, right? Celebrities, high net worth individuals, people that have family offices, right? They like this idea of privacy a lot, And when they look at the options of privacy, for whatever reason, Monero is the go-to choice. I think it's because they have the biggest history, they have the biggest market cap, whatever. And that's why I really like Monero. There's a lot more to it, but that's what I see is the competitive advantage. Because if you get one person who wants to put $50 million into crypto, but they want it to be private, they put 50 million into Monero, that market cap goes up a lot, right? Like, you're not going after the public. This isn't asking somebody who walks down the street, hey, do you care about privacy coins? They don't care. But somebody who's really rich cares a lot. And that's what that's the hedge, or that's the thesis I'm making on privacy coins, is that the people who do care about privacy care about it 10 times more than the average person, which is why it's valuable. So what I'm looking for with Monero is it's in an interesting accumulation pattern right now from the last breakout. And so same thing, I drew one horizontal line on a pretty weak resistance trend that came around 246. And I'm just going to keep watching this. I'm going to see if it comes down at all, right? That's where I'm going to set my buy order, right around 246, to see if we can get that. I think that this one is going to be very closely tied to what happens with Bitcoin over the next few days, so I'm not too concerned about it. But I'm also going to see if it starts to trend up, because if it starts to trend up, that may be a sign of a bigger move in its own right. So that's what I'm looking at. Nothing too crazy on this chart. You can probably do a killer Fibonacci on this from the bottom to the top, however you want to do it. But like I said, this to me is a much longer term play. I'm stoked about it the more I talk to people, especially, guys with a lot of money. Monero just keeps coming up. It keeps being the thing that fund managers seem to be buying that they don't really talk about. That's interesting to me. Last thing I wanted to mention is seed round investing. So I did I did a seed round / angel round company in San Francisco. I've done it a few different ways with a couple other companies. And if you don't know anything about seed round or venture capital or angel investing, I would encourage you to go check it out. Just look up, this is a Wikipedia entry on seed money, right? Seed round funding. And I'm going to open up this image for anybody, which isn't the best image, but I think it might help paint this picture. What it shows is the life cycle of a startup. And the first area here is what they call seed capital, where it says angels and friends and family, meaning you're starting a company, you go get your seed round, you go to people you know, you go to angels, which are people that are strategic partners who can also help with your company's growth. So the companies I invest in, they call me up and ask, hey, how do we do this? Can you help us with this? That's the kind of people that angels typically are, strategic investors who invest early on into unproven business models usually. Then you get into the second level, which is when you get into Series A, B, C, D, all the way to F is probably the biggest one you can do. And that's when you start getting venture capital firms. You start to meet with private equity groups. You start to get with institutional investors, because now you've proven something works and now you need to scale. And then the last phase is IPO. Right? When you've done this, you've raised however much money you need to raise, you've proven the business, and you really want to go big, that's when you have an initial public offering and your company goes onto a public exchange, New York Stock Exchange, NASDAQ, whatever. There's a lot of this is typically how the quote unquote securities world has worked in the United States, and I would say worldwide for the most part. And companies, Silicon Valley, LA, Los Angeles, New York, Chicago, in the United States at least, and then you go to London, you go to Hong Kong, there's a lot of different places where the startup world can really explode in this secondary world. And then once in a while they'll go IPO, which is when people get crazy rich, like the Twitters and the Facebooks and all that. When you look at crypto, we can think about it however we want to think about it, as it's different and blockchain's the biggest thing that ever happened. And that's all true. But at some point, you got to realize that the companies that you are investing in, these are not coins. These are decentralized companies. It's very, very important. They will start to follow this same cycle, right? They need to start with a seed round, which is typically an ICO or some pre-mine or whatever it may be. And then they get into the next phase, which is when people start buying it up on exchanges and pushing it to that $500 million, billion dollar level. And then the IPO level is when it's being, massively traded, right? If, let's say, Ethereum starts getting traded on the New York Stock Exchange, right? Or anything like that. That's what the final phase will be, when the average person can put money in like it's a stock. We are in this first seed capital round right now. We look at these coins, these tokens, and it's easy to forget that these are startups. This is high risk, high return business. It's just easy for the average person to get involved. That does not downplay the risk profile of investing in seed startups, right? Go look up the math. It's not a high probability success rate. However, it is a very, very high return rate if you get the winners, if you do get ones that go big. And I think that we have a handful in this second phase, right? Like the top 15 in the market cap are starting to prove that they have a real product and they have some real legs and things might actually work out. But we have nothing that's even close to being a publicly traded security, right? The ETF stuff is, look how much resistance we're getting on that. So as you're thinking about this, as you're looking at crypto and you're looking at your choices of what you're buying each week, what I would encourage you to think about is, do I really want to be doing seed round investments? Because what I can tell you with companies that do seed round investments or like early stage investments is you invest in 100 companies, 3 of them are going to do really well and 1 of them is going to do extremely well. And that one that does extremely well will pay for everything else, right? The Uber pays for the 125 startups that didn't work. That's how it works out here. And if you put in a lot of money, it goes really well. Facebook, Twitter, whatever. So if you are willing to go that route, realize that that's the game you're in. If you want to go the second world, it's a little bit of a less on a return because it's already a bigger company, but the risk profile is a lot lower. That's why I'm focused on like the OMGs and the Moneros, and even ARK is kind of getting up there at this point. Metal's a little smaller, but I like the ones that have already proven that they have something that works, that people are adopting, that they're getting partnerships, that they have potential to make money. Civic is a good example of this, where I personally like putting my money into things that are already proven, that they're focused on solving problems that already exist, and they're making traction doing it. And I'm willing to give up that 100x return in exchange for a 10x return, which is still insane to think about. And then the final one is the IPO. And this is where average person who walks down the street can open up their trading account on E-Trade or Vanguard or whatever they're using and buy that product, that security, that token, whatever. And that is when things are going to go really crazy, when Bitcoin, Ethereum, whatever else gets to that level of access, which is what the internet bubble was. And this is obviously not apples to apples with that, but this is the difference, is that this IPO third phase, that's where the internet bubble happened. And we're still doing all this. Doesn't mean we're not in a bubble by any means. It just means that this is where the access to the capital was. So when you're buying things, if you're buying them for the long term, realize you're buying a startup that has to beat all the obstacles that come with owning a startup when you're evaluating your risk and things like this. This is so close to venture capital, but sometimes we're treating it like it's not, like it's something completely different, that this is totally new. But the rubber will hit the road. And if these companies are not making a viable business model, it's not going to last long term, right? There's got to be something that makes money. It's got to be credit card transaction fees. It's got to be subscriptions like in Civic. It's got to be transaction fees or whatever, but something needs to make the money. That's what's going to push these things down the road. That's where the returns really come in. Cool. So I thought that would just be helpful. This is just from my own experience, and I want to keep coming back to this, because when you look at OMG, aside from, Vitalik has a sticker on his laptop, the real question is, well, how do they make money? Metal, cool. They got a partnership with Virgin, or they're going to put 10x out of business or whatever. How do they make money? Arc, great. It's going to connect all these blockchains. How are they going to make money? Monero, high net worth individuals might use it. How are they going to make money? That is the question you need to answer. And if you can answer that well, Civic actually has a subscription already that they are making money, which is why I really like it. That's the question that you should answer when you're looking at your long-term holds. When you look through Bittrex and you find Vcash, I have no idea what Vcash does. Never researched it at all. You can look at the charts. You can buy it for whatever reasons you want, but realize that this is a startup. This is not a viable business model. Where's it going? I don't care if it's a blockchain. I don't care if it's built on Amazon Web Services. I don't care what it is. If this is not a real business, it's not going to survive as a business. It's not going to grow. People will stop putting money into it at some point. So, something to keep in mind. Cool. Thank you so much for joining me today. Make sure you subscribe on YouTube, coinmastery.com/YouTube, and hit that thumbs up button so we can get that algorithm juice. I think we're getting close to 30,000 subscribers. It's completely crazy, but I will catch you guys tomorrow. Peace out.